The fire started just after midnight. I was driving home when I saw black smoke rising above the apartment buildings ahead of me. At first, I thought it was a car fire. Then I saw the flames. They were already climbing up the side of the building. People were running into the street, shouting and calling for help. Someone was screaming that a child was still inside. I stopped my car. I didn't think. I didn't call anyone. I just ran toward the building. A firefighter grabbed my arm before I could reach the entrance. "Ma'am, you can't go in there. My child is inside." "She isn't your child," he shouted. I looked up at the burning windows. "I know." Then I pulled my arm free and ran inside. The hallway was already filling with smoke. Every breath burned my throat. I could barely see the stairs, but somewhere above me, I heard a little girl crying, "Help!" I followed the sound. Second floor, then third. The smoke became thicker with every step. I was about to turn back when I heard her again. "Please!" I found her curled beneath a small table in the hallway, holding a stuffed rabbit against her chest. She couldn't have been more than 5 or 6. Her face was covered in tears. "Hey," I whispered, dropping to my knees. "I'm going to get you out." She stared at me as if she had been waiting for me. Then, without saying a word, she reached for my hand. I picked her up and held her against my chest. The ceiling above us cracked. A piece of burning wood crashed behind me. I ran. I don't remember how I made it outside. I only remember collapsing onto the pavement with the little girl still in my arms. Paramedics rushed toward us, but before they could take her from me, she suddenly wrapped both arms around my neck and whispered something that made my blood run cold. "Mom!" I froze, because I had never seen this child before in my life. The paramedics tried to take the little girl from my arms. She refused. Her tiny fingers tightened around my coat, and every time someone tried to pull her away, she started crying. "No," she whispered. Then she looked directly at me. "Don't leave me." I didn't know what to say. I had never been a mother. I had never met this child, and yet she was looking at me with a kind of trust that made my chest ache. One of the paramedics gently touched her shoulder. "Sweetheart, we need to check you for injuries." She shook her head. "Only her." The paramedic looked at me. I nodded. "It's okay. I'll stay." They placed her on the stretcher, but she kept one hand wrapped around my fingers while they checked her breathing and looked for burns. Thankfully, most of the smoke had affected her breathing. She had a few small cuts on her arm, but nothing life-threatening. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I couldn't stop thinking about one word: Mom. A police officer approached me while the paramedics continued working. "Do you know her?" "No." "Did you see her before tonight?" "No, I swear." He looked toward the burning building. "Do you know where her parents are?" "I don't know." The little girl suddenly looked frightened. She pulled my hand closer. "Daddy is coming." I glanced at her. "Your daddy?" She nodded. "Is he inside?" Her eyes filled with tears. "No." She looked toward the burning building. "He told me to wait." Something about the way she said it made me uncomfortable. "Where did he tell you to wait?" She pointed toward the apartment. "Upstairs." I stared at her. "Did your daddy leave you alone?" She nodded again. Then she whispered something I almost didn't hear. "He said you would come." My heart skipped. "What?" The girl looked at me as if I should already understand. "He said Mommy would come back." I felt the air leave my lungs. "Who's your mommy?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached into the pocket of her little pink jacket. Her fingers trembled as she pulled out a small silver pendant. The moment I saw it, everything around me seemed to disappear. I knew that pendant. I had seen it years ago, before my life fell apart, before the man who wore that same symbol destroyed everything I had built. My fingers slowly moved toward it. "Where did you get this?" The little girl looked at me. "Daddy gave it to me." I couldn't breathe. For the first time that night, I wasn't thinking about the fire. I wasn't thinking about how I had saved her. I was thinking about one man, a man I had spent years trying to forget. And somewhere beneath the smoke, sirens and flashing lights, I realized something terrifying. This little girl hadn't called me Mom by accident. Someone had taught her my face. Someone had told her I would come. And I was beginning to fear that the man who had destroyed my life was about to walk back into it. The ambulance doors were still open when I heard a man's voice shouting from across the parking lot. "Where is my daughter?" Something inside me went cold. The little girl immediately stopped crying. She looked toward the entrance. "Daddy!" I turned. A man was running toward us. He was wearing a dark coat, his hair disheveled, his face pale with panic. He looked like a father who had just learned that his child had nearly died. Then his eyes found the little girl. He stopped. For 1 second, the entire world seemed to freeze. His daughter reached toward him. "Daddy!" He rushed forward and pulled her into his arms. But when he looked over her shoulder and saw me, the relief disappeared from his face. His eyes widened. He knew me, and I knew him. My hands went numb. It was him. The man I had spent 5 years trying to forget. The man whose betrayal had cost me my home, my career, my family, and almost every piece of the life I had once loved. The man I had promised myself I would never see again. Ethan. He stared at me like he had just seen a ghost. "You," he whispered. I couldn't answer. The little girl looked between us. "Daddy," she saved me. Ethan's eyes moved back to his daughter, then to me. His expression changed. Not anger, not gratitude. Fear, real fear. He stepped closer and lowered his voice. "What did she tell you?" I stared at him. "Who?" "My daughter." The question made my stomach tighten. "She called me Mom." His face went completely pale. For several seconds he said nothing. Then he looked around the parking lot, as if he was afraid someone else might have heard me. "Don't say that again," I almost laughed. 5 years ago, this man had destroyed my life and walked away without looking back. Now he was standing in front of me, telling me what I could and couldn't say. "You don't get to tell me what to do anymore." His jaw tightened. "I didn't know you were here. I didn't know your daughter existed." His eyes dropped. That reaction told me more than his words ever could. I looked at the little girl. She was still holding the silver pendant. "Why does she have this?" Ethan immediately reached for it, but the little girl pulled it against her chest. "No." He stopped. She looked at him nervously. "Mommy said I should keep it." My heart stopped. I looked at Ethan. "Mommy?" He didn't answer. "Where is her mother?" His silence was enough to make the question feel dangerous. The little girl suddenly reached for my hand again. "Don't let Daddy take me." Ethan's face hardened. "That's enough." The little girl flinched. I stepped between them without thinking. "Don't scare her." Ethan looked at me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said something so quietly that I almost missed it. "You have no idea what you've just walked back into." I stared at him. "I didn't walk into anything." I glanced at the little girl. She was trapped inside a burning building. Then I looked back at him. I saved her. Ethan's eyes filled with something I couldn't understand, regret, fear, and something else. Something that made me realize this fire had nothing to do with coincidence. He leaned closer. You should have stayed away from us. I felt my anger rise. You're the one who came into my life again. He shook his head. No. His eyes moved to his daughter. She brought you back. Before I could ask what he meant, the little girl tugged on my hand. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. Mommy said you would know why. My heart pounded. Know what? But the girl didn't answer. Instead, she looked at her father. And for the first time, I saw something that frightened me more than the fire. She was afraid of him. Not because he was angry, not because he had shouted. She was afraid because she knew something about him that I didn't. And whatever that secret was, it had brought her straight to me. Ethan reached for his daughter again. This time, she didn't go to him. She moved closer to me. Her small hand disappeared inside mine as she stared at her father with frightened eyes. Ethan noticed. Something changed in his expression. Come here, Lily. She shook her head. No. It was such a small word, but the way she said it made me look at Ethan differently. He took one step toward her. I stepped back. She doesn't want to go. Ethan looked at me sharply. You don't know what you're talking about. I know she's scared. She just survived a fire. She was scared before you came. His jaw tightened. Then he looked around the parking lot. Several people were watching us. His voice dropped. Stay away from my daughter. I stared at him. 5 years ago, those words might have broken me. Now they only made me angry. You don't get to give me orders. You have no idea what you're involved in. Then explain it. He said nothing. I pointed toward Lily. She called me Mom. His face hardened. She doesn't know what she's saying. She knows enough to recognize this. I touched the silver pendant in Lily's hand. Ethan immediately looked at it. Give me that. Lily pulled it against her chest. No. Lily. She started trembling. I crouched beside her. It's okay. Ethan looked at me with a warning in his eyes. Don't make this worse. I stood. You're the one making it worse. For a moment, we simply stared at each other. Then Ethan said quietly, You should have let the firefighters handle it. I couldn't believe what I had heard. You're angry because I saved your daughter. No. His voice cracked slightly. I'm angry because now she has seen you. Those words stopped me. What does that mean? He looked away. I can't explain it here. Then explain it somewhere else. No. He turned toward the ambulance. We're leaving. Lily suddenly grabbed my coat. Don't go. I looked down at her. Her eyes were filled with tears. Please. Ethan reached for her hand. She pulled away. Then she whispered something that made my heart stop. Daddy said Mommy was dead. I looked at Ethan. His face had gone completely pale. What did you say? Lily looked at me. Mommy isn't dead. Silence. Ethan closed his eyes. I felt my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I didn't know who Lily's mother was. But I knew one thing. Ethan had lied to his daughter about her, and somehow I was part of that lie. The police officer approached us again, asking Ethan to come inside and answer questions about the fire. Ethan hesitated. Then he looked directly at me. His voice was almost a whisper. Please. It was the first time I'd ever heard him sound afraid. Forget tonight. I shook my head. I'm not forgetting anything. His eyes moved toward Lily, then back to me. If you keep asking questions, you're going to discover things you may wish you'd never known. I looked at the little girl beside me. then at the man who had once destroyed my life. Maybe. I took Lily's hand. But she's already been through enough. Ethan stared at us for several seconds. Then he walked away with the police officer. Lily watched him disappear. When he was finally out of sight, she squeezed my hand. I knelt beside her. "Lily, I need you to tell me something," she nodded. "Why did you call me Mom?" She looked down at the silver pendant. Then she whispered, "Because Daddy told me your name." My breath caught. "When?" She looked up at me. "Before the fire." I felt a chill move through me. Before the fire. Ethan had known I would be there. He had known his daughter would find me. And suddenly, one terrifying possibility entered my mind. Maybe that fire hadn't brought Lily to me by accident. Maybe someone had planned for me to find her. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same things. The flames, Lily hiding beneath that table, her tiny hand gripping mine, and Ethan's face when she called me Mom. But there was something else I couldn't stop thinking about. He had known my name. He had told his daughter about me. Before the fire. Why? The question followed me all the way home. 5 years earlier, Ethan had been the person I trusted more than anyone. We had built a life together. At least, I thought we had. I believed every promise he made, every late-night conversation, every plan for the future. Until one morning, I discovered that almost everything I believed about him was a lie. He had used my name without my knowledge. He had signed documents I had never seen. And when everything collapsed, he let everyone believe I was responsible. I lost my job. I lost my apartment. People I had known for years stopped answering my calls. Even my closest friend told me she couldn't defend me anymore. Ethan never tried to clear my name. He simply disappeared. The last thing he ever said to me was something I had never forgotten. Sometimes people have to lose everything before they understand who they really are. I had spent 5 years trying to understand what he meant. Eventually, I stopped trying. I rebuilt my life slowly. I learned to live without him. I learned not to trust easily. And most importantly, I learned to stop waiting for an apology that would never come. Until Lily, that little girl, had reopened a door I had spent years trying to keep locked. The next morning, I returned to the hospital. Lily was sitting on her bed, drawing with a box of crayons. When she saw me, her face immediately brightened. "You came back? I told you I would." She smiled. Then she held up her drawing. It showed 3 people, a little girl, a woman, and a man standing far away from them. I stared at the picture. "Who are they?" Lily pointed to the little girl. "Me." Then the woman. "You." My stomach tightened. "And him?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she turned the paper over. There was something written on the back in childish handwriting. I could barely read it, but I recognized the name, Ethan. I looked at Lily. "Who told you to draw this?" She shook her head. "No one." "Then why did you draw me?" She looked confused. "Because Daddy said you were important." My heart began pounding again. "What did he tell you about me?" Lily looked toward the hospital door before lowering her voice. "He said you used to love him." I couldn't speak. She continued. "He said you left because you were angry." My hands curled into fists. That wasn't what happened. I hadn't left Ethan. He had destroyed everything and made sure I was the one everyone blamed. I looked at Lily carefully. "Did your father tell you anything else?" She nodded. "He said Mommy knew you." I froze. "Your mother knew me." "Yes." "What's her name?" Lily's expression suddenly changed. She looked frightened. "I don't know." Doesn't your daddy tell you? She shook her head. He doesn't like when I ask. A nurse entered the room and began checking Lily's monitor. I stepped back, but before I left, Lily reached for my hand. She whispered, "Mommy told Daddy you would protect me." I stared at her. "Lily," she looked up at me. "Mommy said if anything ever happened, he had to find you." My heart stopped. "Your mother said that?" Lily nodded. Then she looked toward the door again. "She said you were the only person Daddy could never fool." I couldn't move. For 5 years, I had believed Ethan had erased me from his life. Now I was beginning to understand something much worse. He hadn't forgotten me. He had been keeping a secret, and somehow that secret had been passed from Lily's mother to her, and from her to me. I left the hospital room with one question burning in my mind. Who was Lily's mother, and why had she trusted me with her daughter? I was halfway down the hallway when my phone rang. It was Ethan. I stared at his name for several seconds before answering. His voice was quiet. "You need to stop asking Lily questions." I tightened my grip on the phone. "Then give me answers." There was a long silence. Finally, he said, "You really don't remember her, do you?" My heart stopped. "Remember who?" He took a shaky breath. "Lily's mother." The call ended. I stood there in the middle of the hospital hallway, staring at my phone. Because suddenly, I wasn't wondering whether I knew Lily's mother. I was wondering whether I had known her before she disappeared from my life. I called Ethan back. He didn't answer. I called again. Nothing. By the third call, I stopped trying. If he wanted to keep hiding the truth, I wasn't going to beg him for it. I went back to Lily's room. She was sitting quietly on the bed, coloring a picture of a house. When she saw me, she quickly covered the drawing with her arm. "What are you hiding?" She shook her head. "Nothing." I smiled gently. "You don't have to hide anything from me." She looked at me for a few seconds. Then she slowly moved her arm. The drawing showed a small house surrounded by trees. There were 3 people standing outside. Lily, a woman, and me. I stared at the picture. "Why am I in your drawing?" Lily looked down at her crayons. "Because Mommy said you would come." My chest tightened. When did she say that? Before. Before what? Lily didn't answer. Instead, she reached beneath her pillow. She pulled out a small folded piece of paper. It was old. The edges were worn, and one corner had been burned. She held it toward me. "Mommy told me to keep this." I carefully unfolded it. There were only a few words written on the page, but the handwriting made my heart stop. I knew that handwriting. I had seen it before, years ago, on birthday cards, on letters, on little notes left beside my coffee cup. My hands began to shake. "No." Lily looked at me. "You know her." I couldn't answer. The handwriting belonged to someone I had known long before Ethan destroyed my life, someone I had believed was gone forever. I read the words again. "If anything happens to me, find her. She will keep you safe." My eyes filled with tears. There was no name, but I knew exactly who had written it. I looked at Lily. "Where did you get this?" "Mommy gave it to Daddy." "When?" "Before she went away." "Where did she go?" Lily's little face became sad. "She didn't come back." I swallowed hard. What happened to her? Lily looked toward the door. "Daddy says she left us." Something about the way she said it told me she didn't believe him. I folded the paper carefully. "Did your mother give you anything else?" Lily nodded. She reached beneath the mattress and pulled out a tiny metal box. My heart began racing. "What is that?" "Mommy said I could open it when I found you." I stared at the box. You found me? Lily nodded. She said you would know what to do. I took the box from her. It was locked. There was no key. Then I noticed something engraved on the lid. A small symbol. The same symbol as the silver pendant. My fingers went cold. I had seen that symbol once before. On a document Ethan had forced me to sign 5 years ago. The same document that had destroyed my career. The same document that had made everyone believe I had betrayed him. I suddenly understood the past I had buried wasn't buried at all. It had been sitting in this little girl's hands the entire time. I looked at Lily. Where is the key? She pointed toward the hallway. Daddy has it. My heart sank. Did he know you had this? She shook her head. He thinks I lost it. Before I could ask anything else, the hospital room door opened. Ethan stood there. He looked at the box in my hands, and all the color disappeared from his face. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he quietly closed the door behind him. You found it. I stood up. You knew about this? He nodded. Of course I did. Then open it. He didn't move. Please. His eyes filled with regret. You don't want to see what's inside. I stepped closer. 5 years ago, you destroyed my life. He lowered his eyes. I know. You lied about me. I know. You let me lose everything. His voice broke. I know. I held up the little metal box. Then tell me why your daughter has something connected to the same secret. Ethan finally looked at me, and this time, there was no anger in his eyes, only fear. Because, he whispered, I wasn't the one who destroyed your life. I stared at him. He swallowed hard. I was trying to protect you from the person who did. The room went silent. For 5 years, I had hated Ethan for what I believed he had done. Now he was telling me the one thing I had never expected to hear. Maybe I had been wrong about the man who destroyed my life. Or maybe he was simply giving me another lie. I looked down at the locked box. There was only one way to find out, and whatever was inside was going to change everything. Scene 7. What really happened that night? Ethan stood beside the hospital door, staring at the little metal box in my hands. For the first time since I had seen him again, he looked tired. Not angry, not defensive, just tired. Give me the box, he said quietly. I shook my head. No. His eyes met mine. You don't understand what you're holding. Then help me understand. He looked toward Lily. She was sitting quietly on the bed, watching us. Ethan lowered his voice. 5 years ago, you thought I betrayed you. I didn't think it. I stepped closer. I watched it happen. He looked down. You saw what I needed you to see. My heart tightened. What does that mean? He took a slow breath. Do you remember the night you found those documents? I nodded. I remember everything. You found them in my office. Yes. And you believed I had signed them. You had. He shook his head. I signed them under pressure. From whom? He didn't answer. I stared at him. From whom, Ethan? He finally whispered, Lily's mother. I froze. He continued before I could speak. She discovered something about my business. Something dangerous. She tried to expose it. What does that have to do with me? Everything. He walked toward the window. She knew I cared about you. She knew you were the one person I would do anything to protect. I laughed bitterly. Protect me? You lost everything because of me. Yes, I know. Then how was that protecting me? He turned around. Because if they believed you were responsible, they would stop looking at you. I stared at him. That makes no sense. It will. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small key, the key to the box. He placed it on the table between us. I never wanted you to find out this way. I picked up the key. You had 5 years to tell me. I couldn't. Why? Because someone was watching you. The room suddenly felt colder. Who? Ethan looked at Lily. Her mother. I couldn't breathe. She's alive? He didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward the little girl. Lily's mother knew that if she disappeared, someone would come looking for her. Who? People who wanted what she had. I looked at the box. What did she have? Ethan's expression hardened. Proof. Proof of what? Everything. He sat down beside Lily's bed. She kept records, names, transactions, payments, things powerful people had done and buried. I stared at him. And you? I helped her. Then why did you destroy me? Because they were already watching you. He rubbed his face. I had one chance to make them believe you had nothing to do with me. And that meant destroying my reputation. It meant keeping you alive. I couldn't speak. Part of me wanted to believe him. Another part remembered every night I had spent crying because of what he had done. You should have told me. I wanted to. Then why didn't you? He looked at Lily. Because her mother made me promise. Promise what? That if anything happened to her, I would protect Lily. My eyes moved toward the little girl. And you brought her to me? No. His voice became quiet. She found you herself. I frowned. What are you talking about? Ethan looked at the silver pendant around Lily's neck. Her mother left instructions. What instructions? That if Lily was ever in danger, she had to find the woman wearing the same symbol. I touched the pendant. The symbol was on my documents. He nodded. It was never a company symbol. Then what was it? He looked at me. It was a promise. I felt tears building in my eyes. A promise between who? Her mother and you. I shook my head. I don't remember making any promise. You were there. When? Before I met you. I stared at him. The words made no sense. You knew her before me? Yes. And she knew me? Yes. Then why don't I remember her? Ethan looked away. Because you were never supposed to remember. I felt a chill run through me. What did you do to me? His eyes immediately filled with regret. I didn't do anything to you. Then who did? He was silent. I stepped closer. Ethan, he finally answered. Her mother. My heart stopped. Why? Because she knew what was coming. He looked at the locked box. And she knew that one day you would have to remember. I picked up the box. My hands were shaking. I inserted the key. The lock clicked. Inside was a photograph of me. But it wasn't from 5 years ago. It was much older. I was standing beside a woman I had never seen before. She was holding a baby. And written across the back were 6 words. She promised to protect my daughter. I looked at Ethan. Who is this woman? He stared at the photograph. Then he said the words that made my entire world stop. She's the reason I destroyed your life. I looked back at the picture, and for the first time, I realized the fire wasn't the beginning of this story. It was the moment the secret finally came back to me. I couldn't take my eyes off the photograph. The woman standing beside me looked strangely familiar. Even though I couldn't place her, she was smiling. I wasn't. My younger self looked frightened, and in her arms was a baby. Lily. I looked at Ethan. That's her, isn't it? He nodded. Lily's mother. I stared at the photograph again. Why was I with her? Because she trusted you. Then why don't I remember her? Ethan didn't answer. I felt anger rising inside me again. You keep telling me there are things I don't remember. I want the truth. He looked at Lily. Then he quietly said, her mother didn't disappear 5 years ago. My heart stopped. She disappeared shortly after Lily was born. I looked at the little girl. How? Ethan's face tightened. She was trying to get away from people who wanted to take Lily from her. Who? People connected to the documents you found. I looked back at the photograph. So the documents were about her? They were about what she discovered. And you knew? Yes. Then why did you let me believe you betrayed me? Because someone was watching you. He took a slow breath. They believed you had the evidence. But I didn't. You didn't know you had it. I stared at him. What are you talking about? Ethan pointed toward the photograph. Look at the pendant. I looked at Lily's silver pendant, then at the photograph. The woman in the picture was wearing the exact same symbol. My fingers moved toward my neck. I suddenly remembered something. A small room, a rainy afternoon, a woman sitting across from me, her hands shaking, a baby crying somewhere nearby, and her voice. If anything happens to me, promise me you'll protect her. I stepped backward. The memory was only a few seconds long, but it felt real. I remember her. Ethan nodded. You were never supposed to. Why? Because you were the only person she trusted. I looked at Lily. She was watching me quietly. What happened to her? Ethan lowered his eyes. She disappeared. Did she die? I don't know. That answer somehow hurt more. I picked up the photograph again. On the back, beneath the words I had already read, there was another line. I hadn't noticed it before because the paper was folded. I turned it over. My breath caught. There were only 7 words. Lily must find her when the fire comes. I stared at the sentence. The fire? Ethan looked at me. Yes. You knew about the fire? No. Then how did she know? He didn't answer. I looked at Lily. Sweetheart, she slowly climbed off the hospital bed. Then she reached into the pocket of her jacket. She pulled out a second piece of paper. This was Mommy's too. I opened it. The handwriting was the same. My hands began trembling. This time, there was no doubt. The message was written directly to me. If you're reading this, my daughter found you. My eyes filled with tears. I kept reading. I know you won't understand why I had to leave. I know you may hate Ethan for what happened. But he did what I asked him to do. I looked at Ethan. He couldn't meet my eyes. The next line made my heart break. He destroyed your old life because it was the only way to keep you alive. I covered my mouth. For 5 years, I had hated him. For 5 years, I had believed he had ruined me because he wanted to. And now, the woman who had trusted me with her daughter was telling me that he had done it to protect me. But there was one final sentence, one sentence that changed everything. And if Lily ever reaches you, don't trust the fire. I read it again, then again. Don't trust the fire. I looked at Ethan. What does that mean? He finally looked at me. I don't know. You're lying. No. His voice shook. I swear. I looked toward Lily. She was holding her stuffed rabbit against her chest. Lily. She looked at me. Who started the fire? She didn't answer. I knelt beside her. You can tell me. She slowly shook her head. I don't know. Did you see anyone? She nodded. My heart began pounding. Who? She looked toward Ethan, then back at me. A woman. The room went completely silent. A woman was there? Lily nodded. What did she look like? The little girl stared at me for several seconds. Then she whispered, She looked like Mommy. I froze. Ethan's face went white. Because if Lily was telling the truth, Then her mother might not have disappeared at all, and someone who looked exactly like her had just tried to burn her daughter alive. For several seconds, nobody moved. Lily's words stayed in the room. She looked like Mommy. I looked at Ethan. He was staring at the floor. Tell me the truth. He didn't answer. Ethan. His eyes finally met mine. I thought she was dead. My heart sank. You thought? He nodded slowly. I never saw her die. Then why did you tell Lily her mother was gone? Because I had no choice. I shook my head. There is always a choice. He stepped closer. Not when someone is threatening your child's life. I looked at Lily. What happened to her mother? Ethan took a long breath. She disappeared the night before I destroyed your life. I stared at him. What? She came to me with the evidence. She knew people were coming after her. Who? The same people who had been using my company to move money. My mind went back to the documents, the signatures, the accusations, everything I had spent years trying to understand. She asked me to make you disappear. Disappear? From their world. He swallowed hard. She knew they were watching you because of me. So she gave me one instruction. What instruction? Make them believe you were no longer connected to me. I felt tears gathering in my eyes. So you framed me. I made it look like you had betrayed me. And you let me lose everything. Yes. His voice broke. I thought losing your career was better than losing your life. I looked away. For 5 years, I had imagined him standing somewhere, living happily, while I struggled to rebuild everything. I had never imagined that he had been carrying the same night with him, but I still wasn't ready to forgive him. You could have told me. I couldn't. You could have trusted me. I did. Then why didn't you? His eyes filled with tears. Because I knew you would come back for her. I froze. Who? Lily's mother. He looked toward the little girl. She knew that if you remembered her, you would never stop searching. I looked at Lily. And you were afraid I'd find her? No. Ethan shook his head. I was afraid they would find you first. Suddenly a sound came from the hallway. A faint metallic click. Ethan immediately turned toward the door. What was that? I looked at Lily. She had gone completely still. Then someone knocked. 3 slow knocks. Ethan's face changed. Stay here. He moved toward the door. I grabbed his arm. Who is it? He didn't answer. Another knock. This time Lily whispered, Mommy? My entire body froze. Ethan slowly opened the door. No one was there. Only a small envelope lay on the floor. He picked it up. His hands began shaking. There was no name on the front. Only the same silver symbol from Lily's pendant. I looked at him. Open it, he hesitated. Then he tore the envelope open. Inside was a single photograph. A woman standing outside the burning building. Her face was turned slightly toward the camera. But there was no mistaking her. It was Lily's mother, and she was alive. I stared at the photograph. When was this taken? Ethan turned it over. There was a date written on the back. Tonight. My blood ran cold. She was there. Ethan nodded. But why would she start the fire? Lily suddenly spoke from behind us. She didn't. We both turned. The little girl was crying. Mommy wouldn't hurt me. I knelt beside her. Then who did? She pointed toward the photograph. She was trying to get me out. My heart pounded. What happened? Lily wiped her tears. A woman came. What woman? She looked like Mommy. Ethan and I exchanged a look. Lily continued. She told me to hide. Then she whispered the words that finally made everything make sense. She said the bad people were coming. Ethan closed his eyes. The fire hadn't been an attempt to kill Lily. It had been a desperate attempt to erase whatever had been hidden inside that apartment. I looked at the photograph again. The woman in it wasn't running away. She was looking directly toward the building, as if she had been watching Lily, protecting her, waiting for someone, waiting for me. I turned to Ethan. You knew she might still be alive. He nodded. I hoped. You should have told me. I was afraid. Of what? That if you found her, they would find you. I looked at Lily, then at the photograph, then at the man who had destroyed the life I once had. For the first time, I understood something. Ethan had hurt me. He had lied to me. He had taken away years of my life. But he had also spent those same years protecting a secret he believed could keep me alive. I wasn't ready to forgive him. Maybe I never would be. But Lily was innocent, and she had trusted me from the moment I carried her out of that fire. I took her hand. I don't know what happens next. Ethan looked at me. I do. What? He pointed toward the photograph. We find her. I nodded. But this time, no more lies. Ethan looked down. No more lies. I squeezed Lily's hand, and for the first time in 5 years, I wasn't running from my past. I was walking straight toward it, because somewhere out there was a woman who had trusted me with her daughter. And if she was still alive, I was going to find her. We found her 3 days later. She wasn't hiding. She was waiting. She was staying in a small house outside the city, watching the road from a window when we arrived. The moment she saw Lily, she broke down. Lily? The little girl ran into her arms. Mommy! I stood several feet away, unable to move. For years, I had believed this woman was nothing more than a forgotten memory, but now she was standing in front of me, alive and crying as she held her daughter. After a few minutes, she looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. You came, I swallowed. You knew I would, she nodded. I always knew. I looked at Ethan. He stood behind me, silent. For once, he wasn't trying to control the situation. He wasn't hiding anything. He simply stood there and let the truth speak for itself. Lily's mother walked toward me. I owe you an apology. I shook my head. You don't owe me anything. Yes, I do. She looked at Lily. She was always supposed to find you. Why me? She smiled sadly. Because you were the only person I trusted completely. I looked at Ethan. And him? She glanced at him. He made the hardest choice of his life. I didn't answer. I still remembered everything he had taken from me, the years I had lost, the people who had turned against me, the life I had been forced to rebuild. Protecting me didn't erase what happened, and I wasn't ready to pretend it did. Ethan seemed to understand. He walked toward me. I don't expect forgiveness. I looked at him. Good, he nodded. I just wanted you to know the truth. For the first time, I believed him, not because I had forgotten the pain, but because I finally understood it. Some wounds don't disappear when you learn why they happened. They simply stop controlling you. Lily suddenly ran over and grabbed my hand. Are you leaving? I looked down at her. No. She smiled. Then she looked at her mother. Can she stay? Her mother smiled through her tears. If she wants to. I looked at Lily, the little girl I had pulled from a burning building only days ago, the little girl who had called me Mom before I even knew her name. I knelt beside her. Why did you call me Mom that night? She smiled. Because Mommy told me. Told you what? She leaned closer and whispered. She said you'd come when I needed you. My eyes filled with tears. I hugged her. For the first time, the word didn't frighten me. Mom. That was all she said, and this time I didn't correct her. I held her tighter, because I finally understood something. I hadn't saved that little girl because she was connected to my past. I had saved her because she was innocent, because she needed someone. And somehow, in saving her, I had saved the broken part of myself too. I looked at Ethan one last time, the man who had destroyed the life I once knew, the man who had lied to me, the man who had spent 5 years carrying a secret he thought would keep me alive. I didn't know if I could ever forgive him. Maybe forgiveness wasn't necessary. Maybe closure was enough. I turned back to Lily. She was smiling. And for the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about what I had lost. I was thinking about what I had found. A little girl, a truth, and a second chance I never knew I needed. Sometimes, the person you save isn't the only one who survives. Sometimes, you save them, and they save you right back.